February 20th, 1943. North of Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. German tank commanders were about to witness something they couldn't explain. Through the dust and chaos of battle, American Sherman tanks began moving. Not with random aggression, but with perfect synchronization. 5 tanks, scattered across broken desert terrain, maneuvered as if sharing a single mind. No flags, no flares, no runners delivering orders. And yet, every tank seemed to know exactly where the others were. The Germans had no idea they were witnessing the dawn of a new kind of warfare. A war not decided by armor or guns, but by invisible electromagnetic waves. Scene 1. The Secret Advantage. In the early 1940s, German Panzer divisions relied on AM radios, amplitude modulation systems that were considered state-of-the-art before the war. But these radios had one fatal flaw: static. When a Panzer tank rumbled forward, the engine's sparks and electrical discharges filled the airwaves with noise. German commanders often couldn't hear their own headquarters, let alone coordinate with other tanks. Most Panzers carried only receivers, not transmitters, which meant they could listen to orders, but never respond. The Americans, meanwhile, were preparing something revolutionary. Every Sherman tank was equipped with FM radios, frequency modulation sets with crystal-controlled precision and clarity that cut through noise like a blade through paper. These weren't just radios. They were the backbone of the world's first battlefield communication network. Scene 2. The birth of the battlefield network. It all began on July 22, 1941, when the U.S. Army standardized 3 radio models: the SCR-508, SCR-528, and SCR-538. Behind these machines stood 2 key engineers: Daniel E. Noble, who envisioned using FM in combat vehicles, and Henryk Magnuski, the RF genius who made it work. Their company, then called Galvin Manufacturing, would later become a name we all recognize: Motorola. The SCR-508 radio weighed 181 pounds and operated between 20 to 28 megahertz. It offered 10 crystal-controlled channels, meaning every tank could switch instantly between networks without losing signal or alignment. Its 25-watt transmitter was more than twice as powerful as the German Fu G5, and the FM design made static and interference almost non-existent. Every Sherman tank became a node in a vast, invisible web of communication. For the first time in history, an armored force could think and move as a single living organism. Scene 3. North Africa. The first test. The first test came during Operation Torch in November 1942, as American tanks rolled into North Africa. German intelligence quickly noticed something disturbing. Even when scattered miles apart, American units maintained coordination that seemed supernatural. When a Sherman spotted enemy armor, that information rippled instantly through the radio network. Artillery was called in within minutes. Flanking maneuvers formed before the Germans even realized they'd been spotted. At Kasserine Pass, though the Germans won tactically, they were stunned by the Americans' communication. U.S. tank crews, some who had never met before, coordinated across 50 miles of desert, as if sharing one brain. The Germans called it luck. It was technology. Scene 4. The radio war in Italy. By 1943, American tanks were climbing the mountains of Italy. German commanders expected the terrain to cripple enemy communications. Instead, the Americans' FM radios performed better than ever. Where AM signals bounced and distorted in valleys, FM waves cut through with clarity. Sherman tanks could now coordinate attacks even when separated by ridgelines or operating deep in mountain passes. The result was stunning. German tanks, limited to visual signals, often fought blind. American tanks, meanwhile, fought as coordinated packs, moving, firing, and adjusting in perfect harmony. Scene 5. Normandy, the communication gap. June 6, 1944. As Sherman tanks rolled onto the beaches of Normandy, their radios stayed connected to ships offshore. Naval gunners could adjust fire in real time, something the Germans couldn't even imagine. But the fighting in the hedgerows of France exposed a flaw. Sherman tank radios couldn't talk to infantry radios. Tanks operated at 20 to 28 megahertz, while infantry units used 40 to 48 megahertz. This gap cost lives. Infantry couldn't warn tanks about hidden Panzerfaust teams waiting just meters away. The solution was beautifully simple. Engineers welded field telephones onto tank exteriors, allowing soldiers to speak directly to the crew inside. By Operation Cobra in July 1944, this small invention revolutionized tank infantry teamwork. Scene 6. Operation Cobra. The turning point. During Operation Cobra, the U.S. 2nd Armored Division coordinated over 200 tanks through radio networks that ran like clockwork. German defenders from the Panzer Lehr Division faced an enemy that seemed omniscient. American tanks reacted instantly to threats miles away. Artillery rained down on targets seconds after they were spotted. The Germans couldn't believe it. Their own radios failed at distances where American signals were crystal clear. And when they destroyed a Sherman command tank, they assumed the rest would fall into chaos. But every Sherman had full command capability. The network didn't break. It adapted. Scene 7. Industrial power meets innovation. By 1944, Motorola's Chicago plant was producing tens of thousands of SCR-508 radios. Each one contained over 2,700 components, built to survive vibration, heat, and battle damage. America's industrial might made it possible for every one of the 49,000 Sherman tanks to roll into combat fully connected. Germany, by contrast, could never catch up. By 1943, they built around 5,700 tanks but only 2,000 working Fuji radios. Most panzer platoons had one transmitter, the rest could only listen. When that lead tank was destroyed, the rest were left in silence. Scene 8. The Rhine and beyond. By March 1945, as American forces reached the Rhine River, radio coordination became unstoppable. When U.S. troops found the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen still standing, radio reports flew up the chain of command within minutes. Entire divisions shifted their movements in under an hour. German forces, relying on telephones and messengers, were hours, sometimes days, behind. Their counterattacks came piecemeal and uncoordinated, crushed by artillery guided by radio-equipped forward observers. The electromagnetic advantage was total. German commanders like Heinz Guderian, the father of Blitzkrieg, knew the irony well. Germany had invented tank radio warfare, and America had perfected it. Scene 9. Lessons. Written in static. After the war, Allied intelligence examined captured German radios. The verdict was clear. German systems were 5 years behind American designs. Poor electrical shielding, weak transmitters, and lack of FM capability doomed their communications. Soviet engineers studying both systems chose to copy the American FM model for post-war designs. The lesson was undeniable. Superior communication beats superior armor. Scene 10. Legacy of the invisible weapon. By the war's end, statistics told the story. Metric U.S. Sherman, SCR 508, German Panzer, Fuji 5, transmission power 25 watts 10 watts, range moving 7 miles 1 mile, frequency stability plus or minus 0.01%, plus or minus 1%, full transceiver deployment 100%, approximately 20%. The result? American tank units could coordinate fire missions in 3 to 5 minutes. German units often took 15 to 30 minutes, if communication worked at all. Scene 11. The true revolution. Historians often talk about bigger guns, thicker armor, or faster engines, but the real revolution of World War II was invisible. The SCR 508 didn't just let tanks talk, it let them think together. It turned thousands of individual machines into one unified force. That's why Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel reportedly said after the war, "We knew how to build better tanks, but you knew how to make them work together."